Welcome back. I am Dr. Kevin Hadley. This is the Board Game Professor, and we're talking about how to play in-depth Terror in Meeple City. Okay, so we've talked about setting up the game, we've talked about the 4 actions in the game, and now we're going to talk about the resolution phase, basically. The damage, what happens with runaway meeples, and, actually consumption of said meeples. Now, the one thing I forgot when talking about setting up the game is the runaway board. Okay, so we have the runaway board, and it has a side A and a side B. You should choose this at the beginning of the game. It's kind of one of those things that are just part of the game that I didn't think about, explicitly setting up, but I did forget that there is a side A and a side B. How do you choose side A, side B? Could be flipping of a coin. It could be, oh, hey, we haven't done side B or we haven't done side A in a long time. It's really up to you as a player or as a group. Okay, so we can see here's where we left off, so to speak. I might move around a kaiju just to represent what neighborhood would be best, but we did some hurricane breathing, we did some movement, we did some throwing of vehicles, and we did some crushing of some buildings. And so now we reap the benefits. We also so we knocked down a green guy. So we were playing blue. Let's put blue kind of over here in the green because that's kind of where more things happened. So we have the green guy that we knocked down. We already stole his tooth. Okay, so that's part of the, I did my damage, now what? Okay, and you do this between actions, so you don't do your 2 actions and then, assess. It's like you do your 1 action. If there's damage, then you assess. Okay, but you do not eat as according to the rules. So you assess damage of 2 teeth, and you do your actual consumption. But you don't eat people until the very end. Okay, not if you can help it. Now, in terms of eating floors, okay, so there's these things. You can pick them up if there is no meeples on it. Now, this one, by virtue of my slippery fingers, doesn't have any meeples on it. Now, because I'm the one who knocked it down with my own finger, not my kaiju, I wouldn't get this. The next player would. Okay, but let's just assume that I did. Okay, so every floor that does not have meeples on it gets scored by going to the person's pile. Now, in this case, I got to be really careful because I don't want to knock down other pieces. And that's the biggest thing, is really being careful about picking up our damage like this one right here. Whew. Okay, but this one has meeples on it. This one does have a meeple on it, but even if this meeple guy was like that, there's another floor on top of it which does have a meeple on it. So I can't really take this floor without disturbing this piece, so I'm not going to. Okay, so that's how you need to assess. Okay, which floors do I earn? Basically gobble up, and which ones do I not? Well, the ones that don't have any meeples on it and really don't have anything on it at all. The other thing I have to assess is it completely on rubble or is it in a neighborhood? Okay, now it doesn't matter which neighborhood the floors are in, or even if it fell off of the table. What matters is that I did my thing. Okay. Oh, and I just realized, and hopefully you are watching all 4 videos, I just realized something, a clarification more than anything about the actions, and that is when you're doing the actions, you have to be sitting down. So when you're doing the hurricane breath, the tapping, whatever, you have to sit down. Now, you don't have to sit down in your seat, you sit down in the most appropriate seat, and you might even need to move the seat. But you always have to be sitting down when doing these actions. Alright, so I apologize for missing that rule. Sometimes it happens that I'm going to oversee things, especially with games I don't play as often, which is this game. I don't play this one as often. I do like to play it, but I haven't played it as often as other games. In any case, so big note that I forgot 2 things. First, picking a side for when you're setting up, and when you're doing actions, they must be done sitting down, but they can be in anybody's seat as long as they're sat down. Okay, so now I'm doing, I'm doing my collateral damage, I'm collecting things and things are happening. So all the floors that do not have meeples on them, I collect them. Okay, the next thing that happens is, if I knock down somebody, I steal a tooth from them, or 2 meeples if they don't have any teeth left to give me. Okay, and then if any meeples ran off the board, and in this example, actually, I did pretty good. There were no meeples, so let's just say there's a couple of meeples that fell off the board for representative, example. Okay, now, depending upon what side you're using is going to depend on how you do this. So basically, meeples that go off the board in any mechanism are considered runaway. So we'll try and fit this in here. There we go. So for side A, we just fill in from the top, okay? And nothing happens until we fill up a whole roll. Now, once a whole roll is filled, then this is going to happen, okay? And I'll talk about those in a sec, in turn, okay? But, as I fill these in, things are going to happen. Now, on the other side, it's color-coded. So these are, okay, so this one's a little bit harder to, like, some of these, they're easier to fill in because there's less spots, but they're maybe harder to fill in because they're color-specific. Now, the thing that's interesting is that the gray does not go here. This still goes in the box. So you can kill as many old people as you want, which, maybe that's a little anti-old person. But hey, that's the way the game is. Nothing happens, but okay, the military, you put the military there, you put journalists there, and so on and so forth, and they have their specific spots. So, you have the perfect story associated with the reporters, you have relocation associated with the businessmen, you have mass hysteria according to the women, a little anti-feminism there, but what can you do? Heroic save, again, some more anti-feminism in terms of superheroes coming in and saving women, and they're in the airstrike from the military. Okay, and so when those get filled, this thing happens. Now, as soon as this gets filled, so I can't find 3 green people. So again, these are the military guys. So military, blondes, superheroes, business people, news reporters, and elderly. But as soon as one is filled up, there's another green. Okay, I've filled this up. This happens. This one's a nice simple symbology to lost teeth. Okay, so I lose 2 teeth. Okay, but I take those go back in the supply, and this becomes available again. So I can, like, if I keep losing military, I can keep losing 2 teeth at a time. Now remember what happens when I lose a tooth that I don't have. So let's say I have 1 tooth left, and I lose 2 teeth. Well, I lose the 1 tooth, and then I lose 2 meeples that go into the supply that I've eaten. Okay. So that's what I do when it comes to runaway meeples. Okay. Now, side B, oh yeah, that's, so side A, we have all these different ones. So in order, okay, so the first one, which is the same one as the 4th one. Okay, so in all these cases, I lose a tooth. That's going to happen no matter what. Okay, but in this case, it says the next player takes the current player's monster and places it in the neighborhood of his choice. Okay, so what that means is, okay, so I'm blue, and I knocked some people, knocked enough meeples out to reach this thing. What happens? Well, the next player can take my token and put me wherever they would like. Okay. Well, really, the tactical choice is, okay, I'm going to put them where nothing is there. This is where all the food is, and I'm going to put him way over here so he's really far away from it. It's really up to the player, but the next player is the one that gets to choose to do that. Okay, and that happens on track number 1 and track number 4. Now, track number 2, which is also the same as track number 5, is the monster loses one of its teeth. Again, I'll lose a teeth. But the symbol here where we've got the 4 actions plus 1 is all other players, not just the next player, but all other players get 1 extra action, okay? And so, for the next round, everybody takes 3 actions versus the 2. So that's, definitely not a penalty you want to have because, well, that gives them a severe advantage. Okay, and then the third line, which is a double tooth loss. Okay, so that's pretty simple. And then 4 gets repeated, 5 gets repeated, and then the 6, well, the game just ends immediately. Okay, so just as soon as that happens, I don't even lose a tooth, which is pretty nice. But so everybody's gonna tally up their points to see who wins. But if you're the person who filled this up, you lose. It doesn't matter how many points you have. You just get to lose because you made too many meeples run away, which is pretty mean. Okay, now side B. Okay, side B is a little different because it's very specific. Again, the gray meeples, which are not the elderly, they're old folks. Nothing happens. They go to the box because it says they're useless, which. Again, a little anti-group here, but that we're not going to talk about the theme here. So the in order, the blue, which is the perfect story. So again, lose a tooth, but the active monster loses one of its teeth, and the player discards 1 card of his choice. What does that mean? Well, you have your 3 starting cards, okay, so you have your character card, you have your super secret power, and then you have your power. You have to choose to discard one. And now, if you've used your super secret power, because it's a one-shot, then you don't get to use that. That doesn't get to be one of your choice. You're going to have to choose one of either your character, which is more of a points thing, or your superpower card, which maybe you don't use very often, but you do have to choose to lose one of those, which is pretty nasty. Now, in terms of the businessmen, the black, relocation. Okay, the next player takes the active monster and places it in the neighborhood of its choice. So this one is just like side A. You can see even the symbology is exactly the same. So that's the same. And same thing with the blondes. You lose a tooth and everybody else gets an extra action. It's just like side A in terms of row 2 and row 5. Okay, now in terms of the red, the red is a new one. The red for heroic save. The player returns 4 meeples of his choice from its stomach to the game box. Ooh, so this is kind of like losing 2 extra teeth if you didn't have any teeth. So so you return 4 of the meeples in your stomach, if you have them, to the game box. Okay. Now, and of course the green again is just lose 2 teeth. Okay. So that's the runaway track. And again, now there is no game end with this one. These just keep getting replenished, and so on and so forth. Okay. In terms of losing the tooth and the extra actions and all that good stuff. Okay. So I've eaten my buildings, I've taken care of my runaway meeples. Now what? Well, now I actually get to eat. So I get to eat as many meeples in my neighborhood as I have teeth. So, I count up the teeth from the bottom. Now, because I'm putting this up here, you can't see an example, but let's just say I have 1 tooth left, okay? And so I always have 2 teeth. So 1, 2, 3, that's how many meeples I get to eat from my neighborhood. Okay? Not from anywhere, just from my neighborhood. Now, in terms of my neighborhood, so I'm in the green, so okay, I'm going to pick up this guy and this guy and this guy or whatever, okay? And again, you're trying to get sets, okay? So you want, as big a variety as possible. Also, sometimes your character gives you bonuses based on a certain color. So, so here the tourist gives you the most, gives you a bonus for having the most businessmen, black. So you want as many black as possible, but for the most part, you want a variety. Okay. Now, if there's a meeple that's on a border, like right here, let's make it a little bit more. I'm trying to make this more illustrative in terms of the camera. So I'm gonna move my kaiju over here. Okay. And okay, he's on the border. Well, if he's on the border, he counts as both. Okay. So I can eat him if I'm in the green, or if I'm in what I call the red because of the fire truck. Now, where I've moved my token, well, now I'm both on the yellow and the green, so I can eat stuff from the yellow or from the green. Well, there is none in the yellow, but there are from the green, so that's where I'm going to eat from, okay? And so I choose my 3 meeples, and I put them in my stomach, and I'll score that later, or I might lose them losing teeth and such. Okay, and so that's the basic resolution. Now the game will end either when I've reached here, or all of the floors have been eaten. Not necessarily all the meeples, but all the floors have been eaten. Okay, so those are, and the last criteria for the end of the game is if everybody has lost all of their flexible teeth, so to speak. So if every player has lost a tooth, then the game ends. Now what happens on the game end other than tallying up points? Well, the player who instigated the end game condition will finish out their round, and then every other person gets one more thing to do, one more set of actions and eating, except for from the runaway track. In this case, the game literally immediately ends. The person who ended the game doesn't get any points, and everybody else just counts out their points. So we'll talk about counting up points and the other superpowers and powers in the next video, because a lot of the cards are associated with superpowers. A lot of the cards are associated with points.